everybody, Chad here. In this video, we're going to talk about the law of attraction, but we're going to talk about the secret to the law of attraction. And there's really one main secret that most of the time we hear about, okay, we know of it, but in my opinion, that it's the real secret behind the law of attraction. It's the missing ingredient that most of us, if not all of us, are doing wrong. That's why we're not really manifesting or attracting what we really want into our lives. But you have to remember, okay, the power is within us. God is within us. Heaven is within us. The power is within us. Okay, we can be, do, and have anything that we want. That's the power we have. But how do we tap into this power? I mean, part of the problem is that from little on up, you know, with our parents going through the schooling system, the school system teaches for us to live by our senses, or our five senses, you know, see, hear, smell, taste, touch. Okay, we're not taught to live by our intuition, our perception, and so forth and so forth. Does that make sense? We're not taught to live by our higher faculties. Okay, so I mean, that's kind of the main dilemma. Like, the power is within us, but it's kind of rusty. We don't, you know, we don't know how to tap into it. It's, you know, it's just like a muscle. If you don't use it, it kind of gets, you know, out of shape. But it's still there, but it's just basically out of shape. So let's kind of flip back to the law of attraction. Let's flip back to the real secret behind the law of attraction, and I'm going to share some stuff with you. Okay. Now, law of attraction, it's more than just, yes, it's, you know, thinking positive, it's setting goals and putting your focus on that goal, and having an emotional state for that goal. Remember, emotion is what's really going to attract something to you, you know, either a positive emotion or a negative emotion. Okay, it works the same way. We're attracting negative to us, or we're attracting positive to us, depending upon our emotional state. Okay, we all kind of know this, you know, if you've been kind of studying the law of attraction. Okay, but even with emotion, I mean, what's the real secret? Okay, and I'm going to tell you here right now. The real secret is imagination. Imagination like a child. Okay. But there's an exercise I want to give you here in a couple minutes that will help your imagination, okay? And what I mean by imagination, okay, whatever you want, okay, whatever you desire, whatever your main goal is for this time period, you have to imagine that you have that goal, okay? You've conquered it, you have it. And in your imagination, you play out like a child. You play out like what it's gonna feel like having it. Make sense? Like if you, for example, if you want your dream house, okay, you know the exact house you want. You know how it's gonna look, what it's gonna look like inside. So in your imagination, you imagine you owning that house. You imagine you pulling up in your garage, or parking your car and getting out, unlocking the door, going in. You imagine walking through the house. You imagine sitting there watching TV. You imagine having parties there. You imagine all this stuff. The more you imagine that, okay, and the better you get at it, okay, that increases your emotional state, all from the imagination. Okay, that puts you in a higher vibration. Okay, the higher your vibration, the higher your emotional state, it's going to come to you even quicker. Makes sense? That's why we have to be careful of our emotional states. If we get like angry and worried and fearful and doubt, I mean, lots of times when we get angry and worried, we're such at an emotional state, we attract it. Okay, we attract more people that's angry or whatnot. Okay, so that's why we have to kind of be careful. But with imagination, like, that's really the key. We almost have to become like a kid again, a child again, how we were when we were little. If we went to our dad or our parents and said, "Hey, I want this bicycle," and he said, "Okay, son, we'll get it to you." And the kid runs off and it's like, "Yeah, my dad's gonna get me a bicycle." But then then as a kid, we envision, we don't even have a bike yet, but we make something, a broom or whatever, and we're running around the yard pretending we're riding a bike, pretending we're riding our dream bike, okay? We don't know what we're doing at that time because we're a kid, okay? But we're imagining we have that bike, then sooner or later we have a bike. Doesn't that kind of make sense a little bit? Okay, that's what we have to do, okay? Now, another thing along with imagination, I want to take it a step further. For one, okay, and I've talked about this in other videos, only pick one thing that you want at a time. Don't pick 5 or 10 things, okay? Okay, remember, we want our energy kind of focused, okay? That's why most people will tell you one definite goal at a time, okay? Have one thing, but that way all your energy is focused on this one thing that you really want. Okay, and this one thing you really want, that's what you're focused on. That's what you focused on day in and day out. Okay, and you imagine it. You imagine the end result. Okay, and that's just for the house example. You imagine you already own the house. You're living in a house. You're walking through the house. Makes sense? If you want your dream car, you imagine you already own the car. Imagine yourself driving the car. Okay, imagine yourself going up, picking up your friends in a car. That's what you do. If it could be relationships, maybe you haven't seen your significant other for a couple months, so you imagine what it's going to be like when they come over, and you rehearse it in your mind, imagine it. It brings up especially like relationships or something. You haven't seen somebody, it's easy to bring up your emotional state when you start thinking about it. Okay, you start playing it in your mind. It's very, very powerful. Okay, so with this, I want you to focus on one thing at a time until it manifests, until it comes. Okay, that way you're focused on it. Bring all your energy to that one thing. You imagine. That's the secret to the law of attraction, your imagination. Okay, a lot of us, we have to work on the imagination side. That might take some work in the beginning. You lay in bed thinking you can hardly imagine. Might take it a little while, but you got to work on it. Trust me, it gets better. Okay, now the third thing I want you to do, along with imagination, is now remember, maybe you heard this before, and I'll repeat myself. Okay, what we want to do is influence our subconscious mind. Okay, so for example, when I'm awake throughout the day, my conscious mind is more in control than my subconscious. Okay, my conscious mind is my thinking mind. Okay, almost my reasoning mind. Makes sense. This makes sense. That this doesn't make sense. I overthink, overanalyze. That's the mind that's in control right now because I'm awake. It's my conscious mind. Okay, but what we want to do is influence our subconscious mind. Okay, our subconscious mind. Remember, it cannot dictate between reality and not reality. It cannot dictate what's real or unreal. It doesn't know the difference. Your subconscious mind. But how do we influence it? Okay, because it's hard to influence it during the day. Okay, we can walk around with affirmations. We can do our gratitude pad. We can do 5-minute meditations. Now we can do longer meditations, but sometimes I say 5 minutes because it gives people, you think you don't have to sit there for 30 minutes, okay, and do a meditation. You can do a 5-minute imagination meditation. You're just focusing on your goal, what you want, and you're just imagining having it and what it feels like to have it. Okay, 5 minutes. You can do this at work when you take a break, to sit back in your chair. 5 minutes. Okay, but let's go back to the subconscious mind. How do we influence it? Okay, now this is something that I've known about for a long time, and I just feel like I'm just kind of grasping it and getting better at it now. This is how we influence it, and we've heard this before. I've heard this before. A lot of the gurus talk about this. Even the ancients talk about this. Sometimes it gets lost in translation. Sometimes people fuzz over it. But this is how you influence your subconscious mind, along with imagination, because you're going to do both together. You're going to use imagination, and you're going to influence your subconscious mind by imagination. But how do you do it? You have to be in a sleepy state. Okay, think about it this way. When you start getting tired at night, okay, you start getting tired and you start thinking, I should lay down and go to bed, okay? What's really happening is, as we start getting sleepy, our conscious mind starts getting sleepy. Our conscious mind starts to kind of shut off. Makes sense? That's why when we get sleepy, we can't really think that well. You know, you ever been sleepy and somebody's asking you questions and you're just like, what, huh, what? You don't even get it. And you're like, stop asking me. Or you got kids and they're asking you questions when you're sleepy and you're like, well, and you know what? Or someone wakes you up and say, hey, can I do this? And you're just like, oh yeah. Because you don't know what you're saying, because your conscious mind, your thinking mind is pretty much like shut off. It's drowsy, it's sleepy, okay? At that point, your subconscious mind basically takes over, okay? Now, think about it this way. Our subconscious mind has to take over, okay? If our subconscious mind didn't take over, well, when we would fall asleep or get sleepy, we would forget to breathe. You know what I mean? We would just stop breathing, go in a coma and die. You know, our body process would stop, and so forth and so forth. So all of our body systems runs off subconsciously, okay? But when we're sleepy, our subconscious mind takes over, okay? So this is the exercise I want you to do. And sometimes this is very hard nowadays, is when you go to bed at night, you get sleepy, okay? This is the strongest point of the day or the night for you to do your imagination with your definite goal, your definite purpose, your imagination with the one thing you really want. Okay, so when you go to bed at night, you sit and you lay back on your pillow, you close your eyes, you go right into an imagination of your end goal, your end result of what you want. And you just play it in your mind. Just like if you want that house, you want that car, you want that relationship, you want to see that person again. You play that in your mind until you go to sleep. And you'll be amazed at how this works when you do this properly. And you just do it day after day after day after day. You stay consistent and persistent with it. Now, I don't have a time frame, okay, when things are going to manifest. But this is the perfect time, the most perfect time to influence your subconscious mind is when we're sleepy. Now, when I've been doing this, what I start finding is there's nights that you kind of toss and turn, you kind of wake up, you're awake for like 5 seconds because you're turning over, put your head on a different pillow or whatever. And what I start finding is when I fall asleep thinking about what I want, and I'm rehearsing it in my mind, imagining it, when I wake up throughout the night, my computer shut off, sorry about that. There, I had some stuff downloading, so I didn't want that to stop downloading. But anyway, where was I? But what I found was that what I was thinking of, what I was thinking about, imagining right before I went to sleep, if I wake up in the night, I'm still thinking about it. When I wake up in the morning, I'm still thinking about it. Make sense? So these are the two exercises. You imagine what you want, end result, before you go to bed. Then you imagine right when you wake up. Okay, now if you do this properly, right when you go to bed, it's going to be easy to do right when you wake up, because this is how it's been with me. When I wake up, I'm already thinking about it. And it's really weird. And you do this several days in a row. It's really weird throughout the day too, because throughout the day, you honestly feel like in the back of your mind, you're just always thinking about what you want, that one goal. Because you did it so proper at nighttime, when you go through the day, it's just in the back of your mind. It's like subconsciously, okay? And this is really the real secret behind the law of attraction. Because lots of times when we talk about law of attraction, there's so many things to talk about. There's so many things to discuss. There's so many things, to discover, okay? But this is the one main secret, to keep it simple, okay? It's having one goal at a time, okay? Know what you want. Use your imagination. The end result meaning that you already own that house. You already own your dream house. You use your imagination of what it's gonna feel like owning it. Okay, you walking through it, having parties and stuff like that. That's what you do. That's what I mean end result. Okay, you don't imagine you trying to get it. You imagine that end result. You imagine you already own it. You already have what you want. Okay, that's your imagination. Okay. Now with that, with your imagination, you want to influence your subconscious mind. The strongest way to influence your subconscious mind again is right before you go to bed. You're imagining, what I do, I know I'm gonna go to sleep, I sit back, sit in my pillow, the lights are off, and I'm just sitting there just imagining. And sometimes it takes me a minute or two to kind of get in the mood. Sometimes I sit back and it feels like it takes me a minute or two to kind of get in that imagination mood. But once it kicks in, it gets going, next thing I know, I'm thinking about it, running through things, next thing I know, I'm asleep. Then I wake up a couple times through the night. Then I start realizing when I wake up, I'm thinking about it. But that's what I was thinking about when I fell asleep. Okay. Then when I wake up in the morning, I'm already thinking about it. So then when I wake up in the morning, I'll lay there. And my mind will just naturally go into the imagination of what I want. And it's so powerful because, if you think about it, if you sleep 8 hours, or 9 or 10 hours, how many hours of sleep you get. I mean, if you do it properly, your subconscious mind just soak that in for that time period. And then you take it with you throughout the day. Then throughout the day, you can do other exercises throughout the day. You can have your affirmations you do, that just in case your mind goes in a gutter, you have your affirmations. You have your gratitude pad where I actually write it down 10 times, like 10 things I'm grateful for. But usually it's around what I want, my one main goal. Okay, so I'm writing it. That brings it power. Sometimes I'll do a 5-minute meditation at some point, maybe midday, that kind of I'll sit down maybe 5-10 minutes and just imagine, go through it. Those are all good. Those are all kind of keeps you on track. But again, the most powerful is when you're sleepy. Okay, all the gurus, even the ancient gurus, I'm not talking about today gurus, I'm the gurus from the 1900s, okay, early 1900s. That's the main thing they said, that to influence your subconscious mind, you have to be sleepy. That's the best way to do it. But other than that, my friends, that's really it. That's the secret behind the law of attraction, is your imagination. And to influence your subconscious mind through imagination, you have to be in a sleepy state. Okay, so what that means is, I'm going to recap, is that when you're sleepy, the best thing to do is not watch TV. Don't watch TV clear up until you're crazy tired, and it's like, because you're going to think about what you're watching. Don't be listening to music, reading a book, you're on your phone flipping. It's almost like what we tell our kids, that if you know your bedtime's at 10 or your bedtime's at 11, well, you stop doing all the electronics maybe an hour before bed, because that way you have an hour reprieve. You're not thinking about it. Okay, then that way when you start going to bed, you start getting sleepy, you start thinking about what you want. So you have to take control. Okay, not saying we can't never watch TV and stuff like that, but we have to really take control of our mind. Okay, we are really in control. Okay, we have the power within. Okay, but we just have to learn how to control it. But other than that, my friends, hopefully that helped. I've been rambling for a while here. But anyway, I'll see you in the next video.